Before this video starts, if you enjoy this video, there are many more like it already on the channel, with many more like it to come in the future, so subscribe. I'm trying to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so I would really appreciate it. I upload 6 days a week on this channel, so if you're looking for some consistent basketball talk, this is the place for it. Also, drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second. It makes a massive difference. If you are wondering why there is a 2K talk today, well, when this is going up, I am currently in Atlanta, hanging out with my podcast co-host, Mojo99, as well as the editor of that podcast and this channel, Rudy, who's a good friend of mine. Both of them are. So I had to record these videos ahead of time, and unfortunately I could not create a full week's worth of videos, regular videos, in like 3 days. So you're getting an extra 2K talk because these take less time. This is not going to be a reoccurring thing. That's just what's happening this week in particular, because I didn't have time to get a full week's videos out normally. But with that out of the way, today we are talking about the Dallas Mavericks and what is the next step this team needs to take in order to become a contender. This is going to be a kind of what's next for this team series, except I'm going to be talking about teams that are like potentially on the verge of contending, but they aren't really there yet, and what that next step needs to be in order for them to get there, if that wasn't clear from the context of the title. The Dallas Mavericks this year have been pretty damn good. Now, I actually predicted before the season started that they would be a playoff team. However, I'm not going to brag about that too much, because I also predicted that Luka Doncic would be no better than he was his rookie year, and that's obviously not been the case. But this Dallas team has been the best, statistically, the best offense in league history, which is not something I can say that I expected, just because Luka Doncic is that much of a fucking baller. And a bunch of shooters, Kristaps Porzingis as a second scoring option, Rick Carlisle being a really good coach. All of these things have come together in order to make this be a legitimately good legitimately crazy good offense, I should say. And then defensively, they have not been amazing. However, they've also not been completely trash, and there's room to grow on that end. But when talking about that offense, there comes this critical flaw, which is that I don't know what exactly it was, but I know I saw on Twitter that the Mavericks are like in the bottom 10 teams in the league in clutch offense, closing the games. And that's not an indictment on Luka or Kristaps Porzingis. I think both of those players are relatively clutch in their own right. Granted, there hasn't been a whole lot of opportunity or a lot of evidence of them being clutch outside of that crazy shot that Luka hit in his rookie year. I believe it was against the Blazers when he had like 0.4 seconds to get a three-pointer up. But I do believe that both of these players can be clutch offensive players. The problem comes where, yes, I'm about to criticize the most efficient offense in NBA history. The problem comes with the fact that this offense is pretty predictable. I think offenses that are very simple tend to be pretty damn good, specifically in the regular season. But when it comes to playoff time and when it comes down to crunch time, a simple offense can really come back to bite you. Like the Utah Jazz and in the 90s with John Stockton and the pedophile were pretty damn good offenses. However, I think those offenses were too simplistic, which made it easier to defend, and that's why in 98, Jordan was able to steal that ball from Karl Malone, because he knew that they were going to run that same post-up play where John Stockton awkwardly dribbles the ball up the court and just dumps it down to Malone. Like, the offense was too simple, and I think that's the case for the Mavericks here, where it's really like, okay, Luka's really good, he's going to have the ball for the entire possession. Kristaps Porzingis might get open. He might take a one-dribble pull-up. A bunch of other three-point shooters that we have on the perimeter could get open. We could have a cutter or whatever. Dwight Powell could catch an alley-oop. But at the end of the day, that's very simple. And when you know what's coming as a defense, that makes it a lot easier to read as a defense. I don't know why I said it like that, but basically, the point is Dallas's offense is simple to a fault, and it works for 95% of the game, but that last 5% is very important too. So when the Mavericks have not played well enough to blow out their opponent and they need to be clutch at the end of the game, they're kind of failing to do so, and that's an issue. And I think where this problem lies is not just the simplicity, but I think it's Luka Doncic being forced to do too much. I don't know what his specific usage rate is, but I'm certain that Luka has a crazy usage rate, and that's an issue because fatigue is a thing, and also more importantly, Luka himself is unable to be all that efficient from outside because of the fact that he is dribbling the ball the whole possession. And then again, this offense becomes predictable because it's like Luka's going to do something and that's what we need to defend. And after that, we'll figure it out. And that's kind of just how it is against this Mavericks team. So what I believe is the Mavericks need to get another playmaker and ideally another shot creator to put on this team next to Luka. See, Luka is really good at getting to the rim. His three-point shot, and specifically his step-back three-point shot, is not really reliable. He shoots a lot of them, but it's not something that he really should be shooting a lot of. Now, I do want to say, and I've said this a couple times with Luka, Luka is a good three-point shooter. The problem is he has to create pretty much all of his threes off of the dribble. And a three created off of the dribble is a much lower percentage shot. Now, it's still a shot that Luka should be taking on a pretty regular level. However, Luka should not be shooting 8 step-back threes a game. Like, if we look at his assisted percentage on three-pointers, only 24% of his three-pointers are assisted, which is a very low amount. So that means most of his threes are coming off of the dribble with his defender ready for it to happen, and the results speak for themselves. He shoots 31% from three, and he's a better three-point shooter than that, but it's not going to look like that until he has a playmaker next to him that's really going to allow him to do that. And then ideally, outside of the offense, you need some more defense because this Mavericks team is not amazing at defense. Now, they're not like horrible. They're right around the middle of the pack, as they are 17th in defense. Kristaps Porzingis at center is a good idea to me, especially with the direction the game is heading. And I think he works as a center, as a rim protector, and he's pretty versatile on the perimeter. Dorian Finney-Smith, I think, is a pretty good lock at the power forward position, especially if he can keep hitting his three-pointers. He's a very good defensive player and perimeter guy. DeLon Wright is a pretty good defensive player, not amazing. But outside of that, I mean, Luka's not good at defense. Tim Hardaway's not good at defense. Seth Curry and Maxi Kleber, who seem to go back and forth on who is the starter, they're not good at defense. Dwight Powell's all right at defense. Maxi Kleber's all right at defense, but he's not amazing. And Dwight Powell is pretty all right at defense, but I honestly don't think he should be starting. He got injured before this, but I don't think he's a starter on this team. I think small ball with Kristaps at center is really more ideal, even though he is 7'2", but he's skinny, so it's still kind of small ball. Basically, what I'm getting at is the Mavericks need to address defense, and they need to go for another playmaker and shot creator to pair next to Luka. And once they have those two things, I think this is going to be a very, very good team and a legitimate contender. Like, let's just throw out the name Jrue Holiday. Now, I'm not going to go into detail, like specifically everything about the potential trades, because it gets a little wishy-washy, but I definitely think that Jrue Holiday is obtainable. The only issue with Dallas is they gave up so many of their first, I think it was 2 or 3 first-round picks for Kristaps Porzingis, and I think there's a certain time period that has to go by before they can trade their first again because of the Stepien rule. I don't know exactly how that works, but if you could get like a couple of first-round picks over to New Orleans, I think they could give you Jrue Holiday. Even though I don't think the Pelicans should trade Jrue Holiday, I also think they're open to it. So basically, he's a defensive guy who averages 20 points and 7 assists. He would be able to take the ball, get in pick and pass with Kristaps, and allow Luka to play off ball on the perimeter a good bit. And the offense, I believe, would be better in this scenario, especially in the clutch, which even if you're not going to be statistically the most efficient offense ever, if you're not closing games, that does not matter. So if you can just be like the second or third best offense in the league and be able to close out games, that's better than what you currently have going on right now, especially when you're talking about contending and being in the playoffs, because being able to close out games when you're a contender is pretty fucking important, because you're going to run into other very good teams the further you get down into the playoffs. That's kind of how that works. So a guy like Jrue Holiday. Then outside of that, there are some free agents this team could sign. I think a 2-guard. I don't think they're getting Jrue Holiday next year, but like maybe they do. But like a 2-guard or a 3 that is a very good defensive player would really help this team out. At small forward, you have guys like Otto Porter Jr. who could be interesting, although I also think there's a world where the Mavericks are preparing to try and sign Giannis, so maybe you don't want to commit yourself to too much money, which would kind of get in the way of Drew Holiday, but yeah, that's a thing. I'm going to, as I do every video, suggest Jeremy Grant. I think he'd be amazing in Dallas. Three-point shooter, very good, versatile defensive player. Jay Crowder's a cheaper guy you could bring off of the bench. Thabo Sefolosha, if he's not too old at this point. Wilson Chandler, if he's not too old at this point. Andre Roberson is going to be a free agent. That's an interesting one, especially if his three-point shot's actually legitimate. I don't think it is, but if that is an option, that would be interesting. It'd definitely take a hit on offense, but I think you'd be a much better defensive team. Wesley Matthews, I don't even know if he counts as a defender anymore, but he's at least all right on that end. Also in this year's free agency, if maybe you can't sign a guy, and kind of keeping up with this like foreign thing that's been going on with the Mavericks, they could sign Bogdan Bogdanovic if they manage to clear the cap space. That would definitely be interesting. You'd have to get rid of Tim Hardaway Jr. in that sense, and I don't know how big of an upgrade that is, but it would at least allow Luka to play off ball, because Bogdan is a ball handler and a distributor more so than Tim Hardaway Jr. is, so that's interesting. But basically, the solution to the Mavericks situation and becoming a legitimate contender is they need more defense, and they need to have another playmaker and shot creator. Once those two things are accomplished, I think this Mavericks team can legitimately compete for a championship. And I don't mean like can be a contender in the way that like the Raptors and Nuggets are contenders. I mean be contenders in the way that the Clippers, Lakers, and Bucks are contenders. So that is the end of this video. Please be sure to like, subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.